Hey everyone, and welcome to the Defining Your Life podcast, where we focus on living in our purpose, practicing presence, and activating our power in each moment. I'm Marsharelle, your resident pep talk provider, and I invite you to join me as we continue to learn, lift each other up, and strive to level up together. Because we are never finished defining our lives, and it takes a village, so let's build one. Stay tuned for the episode. Hey everyone, I hope that your week is going well and that you've been able to lean into the ease of summer a bit more, let your hair down in the midst of everything that you may be juggling, with work, family, self-care, all that stuff. Summer brings with it a certain air of freedom different from other seasons. Maybe it's being outdoors more or having a less regimented schedule, or maybe it's just not being constricted by all the layers of clothing we are bundled up in when we're trying to keep the chill out. Whatever it is, I'm challenging myself to bring some of this summer energy along with me for the rest of the year because it really does feel so good. And talking with Aunt Robin last week really reminded me of the importance of prioritizing myself, how it's not selfish, and in fact, it is very necessary. When she shared that the prioritization of herself allowed her to serve others better, that was really clutch for me because I've spent a good amount of time this past year focusing on myself and seeing some benefits, and yet still that guilt around that self-prioritization continues to follow me. Am I not doing enough for other people? Am I taking too much time for myself? Is stepping back to make more space for me the right thing to do? How will the significant changes that I make impact others? On and on with the questions I go, putting the cart before the horse, stopping myself before I've gotten to a point where certain things even need to be entertained. Just assumptions, right? Like I'm just pulling stuff out the sky. Have you ever tired yourself out with your own foolishness? Because that's where I am at this moment, y'all. I'm at a place where two things can be true. Yes, I'm embracing who I'm becoming, yet I'm struggling to let go of some of my old ways. And in this struggle with all of the questions and doubt, I have allowed some invisible barriers to pop back up, full moment of transparency. And I've allowed some excuses to come into play. Like, how can I unapologetically be for me without hindering someone else or sacrificing something important? This is a narrative that I've fed myself for a very long time. Sometimes I feel like I've put it to bed, and then I'll wake up faced with it yet again. I tell y'all, old habits really do die hard. But once you start to overanalyze, that's when you misstep. And I have to remind myself what a comfort there is in self-assuredness. This is a reminder for me and you not to let yourself be robbed of that. Think highly of yourself, highly enough that you take the action to prioritize you, highly enough to remind yourself as often as you need to that your perspective matters, and it doesn't need to look or sound like anyone else's. Don't doubt yourself. Recognize that if this is an area where you struggle, the work is probably going to go on forever, and that's okay. In fact, that's one of the reasons why this platform even exists. I'm going to revisit these topics as often as I feel moved to, and I hope that's okay with you. But pull yourself back. Take a look at your reflection. Express gratitude for who you see in that mirror. Forgive that person you see in the mirror for not loving on you unconditionally, and usher that person you see into a new season of self-love. That's one thing that never gets old, right? So how are you going to love on you today? Forgiveness has been on my mind a lot lately. and what healthy forgiveness actually looks like in real life. Oftentimes, we get caught up in the words around forgiveness, the stories we tell ourselves about forgiveness, or how we behave in regard to it. But are we really forgiving? Are we forgiving of ourselves? Because if you forgive yourself, you're going to treat yourself differently, not continuously beat yourself over the head about the past, whether recent or long ago. Acknowledgement is needed, yes. If you believe you need to forgive yourself of something, it can't be ignored because it stays with you. But once you acknowledge and claim release, allow yourself to truly let it go. Are we really accepting apologies when they are offered to us? Now, the thing is, we don't have to just accept an apology because someone verbalizes one to us. Of course, you want it to be genuine. You want to feel that it's real, right? But just like love, forgiveness is an action reflected in how you treat both yourself and others involved in the situation where the apology or the forgiveness is needed. Apologies and forgiveness are like acts of service for ourselves. If you say you forgive someone, but every time their name comes up in a situation, you're ready to fly off the handle, can you say that you really, truly have forgiven them? And then, right, you're the one who ends up with the elevated blood pressure because that's an indication that you don't have any peace around the matter. Those feelings are unresolved and you are still being impacted. And so, what will it take for you to process those feelings? Have you actually taken the time to sit down with the emotions and let them flow through you? Have you spoken to a professional to help you get through if needed? Have you written your feelings down? We can't continue to harbor self-inflicted pain or the pain that others have inflicted upon us because either way, we're the ones who suffer. And then there are some things that are just downright petty. But for some reason, we want to hold on to something so silly. Sometimes we even forget why we were angry in the first place. And we're not just holding it for ourselves, we're carrying that energy and we're spreading it to others, right? That negativity, even if it's not specifically mentioned by name. Well, who benefits from this behavior and the spreading of negative energy? Do you? I don't think so. No good comes from holding grudges. The act of grudging is defined as being resentfully unwilling to give, grant, or allow something. And in this instance, of course, we're talking about forgiveness. And the act of being unwilling is like creating this mental battle in your mind, which can tire you out and wear on you even more than a physical fight. Because a physical fight has an end, right? Once we exert all of our energy, our physical energy, we end up laid out. But with a grudge or refusing to forgive, long after your body has laid out, given up, there is still that mental struggle that can continue on. Those thoughts continue to have a stronghold on you. And we find ourselves struggling to hold on to the thing that hurt or offended us, grasping for it even, when God has granted us something else to hold on to, something better, more positive. And we often refuse. I mean, that process, even just talking about it, has made me tired. Now, it goes without saying that forgiving doesn't mean forgetting or being naive or pretending that we've moved on when we have not yet. It's just the way that you choose to handle and present in the situation. And really, it's all related to how we want to treat ourselves, right? If we want to be treated a certain way when we're forgiven. We may need to consider that when someone is seeking our forgiveness. Whether or not you choose to forgive, you're going to feel the impact either way. So, do you want to hold on to the weight of the burden or let it go and increase your chances to just float? I'll leave you with a few words from Nelson Mandela today. He said, "As I walked out the door toward the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison." I'd say that's a word, y'all. So don't give others the power to imprison you, and don't imprison yourself. Walk toward the gate that leads to your freedom. Open it, walk through it, and close it behind you. Thanks so much for listening today. If what you've been hearing has been beneficial, please leave a review, share the pod with someone, and subscribe. And do some forgiving this week, y'all. What do you need to forgive yourself of? How about how can you forgive someone else? Either way, you'll receive the benefit of release. I appreciate you all and can't wait to chat again next week. Take care until then.